there's a good case to recording your games. I had to pop away for a second and I couldn't remember if I'd taken a resource, so I just watched back my footage. And no, I hadn't. So Roland's up to 4 resources now. Oh, I should say there is a card limit of 8 cards, and if you go over that, after you draw a card and gain a resource, if you're at more than 8 cards, you have to choose to discard down. Probably won't be a problem at the rate we'll be drawing cards. So another Doom goes on to the agenda, which means the agenda has met its threshold, which we check at step 2. So we're only just keeping ahead of the agenda. So let's flip what's going on onto its other side. Titled A Lapse in Time. My house continued to change before my very eyes. The walls decayed, and the ground in many rooms had turned to dirt. It was almost as if I had been transported somewhere else entirely, although every now and again I recognised elements from my former home. The lead investigator, this is something that in a multiplayer game at the start you will choose a lead investigator and they make decisions, must decide. Either each investigator discards 1 card at random from his or her hand, or the lead investigator takes 2 horror. Well, given that taking 2 horror would kill, all but kill, Roland Banks, Roland, rather than trying to hold on to his possessions from a former location that are confusing him, instead he is going to ditch them and keep his brain intact. So 1 random discard. Working a hunch. There we go. Roland's lost all of his investigation skills from being transported into another realm. So, here we go. Agenda 2. 2A. Rise of the Ghouls. The floor beneath me gave way, and I saw a vast network of tunnels twisting into the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures moved swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find a way up. I would probably not want to be there when they do. Bum, bum, bum. Although my 38 special is aching to shoot someone. So it's 7 Doom required to advance. So hopefully we can hold that off for a while. Draw my encounter card. How appropriate! It's a Ghoul minion. So 2 fight, 2 health, 2 fleet. It's a humanoid monster ghoul. Oh, and we have a quote from H.P. Lovecraft himself. It was a colossal and nameless blasphemy with glaring red eyes, and it held in bony claws a thing that had been a man, gnawing at the head as a child nibbles at a stick of candy. H.P. Lovecraft, Pickman's model. It says here that the ghoul will do 1 health damage and 1 horror damage to me. I believe it's just called 1 damage is the health and 1 horror is the horror. So because that spawns, I drew it, it spawns with me. And so it spawns engaged with me. I'm just going to move all these up just so it doesn't look... The study's gone now, so it doesn't look as though the ghoul is hanging in the parlour. Oh, I should say, sorry, I didn't show you the parlour, but the entrance to the parlour is blocked by a darkly glowing unfathomable barrier. You cannot move into the parlour. So that sort of text is then superseded by the act card. You're unsure what would happen if you tried to cross the threshold of the straight... I'm unsure what would happen if I tried to cross the threshold of the strange barrier, but based on its extreme heat, I'm sure as hell I don't want to try. Maybe I could throw the ghoul through it. Right then, so the ghoul is engaged with me, which is good, because Roland's gun has been aching for something to shoot, and I can hoover up the last clue doing this. So, now it's the investigator phase. Now, normally, I might risk the 4 fight that I've got here against the 2 of the ghoul. You know, I'm 2 clear. That's good odds. But because the ghoul has got 2 health, that would require 2 successful checks to get him down. So it's time. Get the hell out of my house! Even though it might not be my house and there might be another dimension. So I'm going to fire Roland's gun, which would normally give me... So I spend 1 of my ammo. Normally give me +1, which is normal for a gun, and +1 damage, which is also normal for a gun. However, because there are clues here, Roland's detective sense kicks in, so now he's on +3 to this check, and it deals 2 damage, so I'm on 7 against the ghoul's 2. Roland's clue-based hand cannon, -1, which puts me on 6 against 2. That ghoul is blown to pieces. So cool. Good work, Roland. And because he's Roland, he hoovers up one of those clues. Right then, we've got 2 actions left. Right. I think we're going to move into the hallway. Now, I would very much like now to play my guard dog, because in anyone who's played Lord of the Rings knows the importance of allies as meat shields. So why didn't I play this earlier? Well, I only have 1 ally in my hand, and you can see down here the ally slot. You can actually only have 1 ally at a time, so you can't use it in the typical Lord of the Rings sense. And there are some allies who are just meant to turn up, do something good, and then get eaten. And then some allies that are meant to like stick around and help you. Now the guard dog is meant to be a punching bag, but he's not. Bless him, he doesn't have a high mental threshold. He's more about being like attacked by the enemy, and that's not something that Roland needs to worry about as much right now. Now, this would seem, with 1 action left, like a great time to do this. But this is one of the things that I've been learning about the game. If I'm in the hallway now and an enemy spawns, that enemy will be engaged with me in the hallway. There are no clues in the hallway, and so Roland's gun won't be getting his bonus. Killing enemies won't get me Roland's bonus. So what I need to do right now is move into the cellar so that if an enemy does spawn, I'm in a place with clues to take advantage of Roland's ability. So I'm going to running along from the attic. I'm going to run back down the stairs into the hallway and then run down the stairs into the cellar. This is turning into a game of Betrayal on the House on the Hill. Right then, cellar. Cellar, I barely know her. The stairs leading down to your cellar are slick and they glisten with a thin layer of ice. This is turning into Home Alone. Right then, let's unlock this. What have I done to my lovely cellar? So it's 4 shroud. I told you we'd need that flashlight at some point. 2 clues per investigator. Forced, after you enter the cellar, take 1 damage. We're perfectly fine with that. Roland's got a lot more heart than he's got brain. My cellar seems to have been replaced with an underground network of icy tunnels and caverns. The cold chills you to the core. Or chills me! Damn my use of the first person. So there are 2 clues on there. Now, for those of you with particularly strong mathematical abilities, you will have realised that we only need 3 clues to get through to the next act, and we already have 2. So I only need 1 of the clues off here. However, it had a victory point 1 on it, so if I clear it of clues, it will mean that I'll get an extra victory point to buy better cards for my deck. So sometimes you need to make the decision, am I going to spend my time clearing this of clues? You know, a 4 shroud, that's a hard clearance, or am I going to spend my time just trying to keep ahead of the scenario? Because there's no point having victory point. You know, sometimes winning the scenario is more important than some victory points. So we'll see. So the enemy phase, they don't do nothing because there's just a dead chunks of ghoul up in the attic. So reset, ready, exhausted, draw a card. Ho, ho, ho. Speaking of allies, I don't know why this dude is hanging out down in my cellar, but this is one of the big persistent allies. So 4 cost, so more expensive than my guard dog. And he's got that little star which shows he's unique. So you get +1 investigate. That is crazy. If you think that discarding a card can give you +1 for a round, and this guy just permanently gives you +1, and he has a reaction. After you successfully investigate, gain a resource. While I truly pray that this nightmare is just a singular abomination, I must admit that I am exhilarated by the possibility that this is but one specimen of the new genus. Sounds like a guy you want on your team. Reminding me a little bit as well of Alfred Molina in Angie Tribeca. He's got 1 health and he has 2 horror threshold, which means he could absorb at least 1 point of horror for Roland before he died. So we will probably be playing the good doctor and a resource. Oh, that's it. Right, and there's another good example for like having not played the guard dog. Had I played the guard dog, then I would need to play the doctor. I would have to discard the guard dog, and by spending those 3 resources there, I'd also wouldn't have enough resources to play him. So I wasn't in a combat heavy situation, or certainly not combat that I couldn't handle. So I was better off waiting in case I drew that ally or a different ally. So Doom onto the agenda, but we're well ahead of the 7. Of course, I will now encounter a series of terrible checks that will put me far behind, but we'll find out. Oh, speaking of big nasty beasties, the Ravenous Ghoul. 3 attack, 3 health, 3 fleet. Humanoid monster ghoul. Prey. Now, this is the first time that we've seen this term. Prey means that if he spawns, like for instance, I've drawn him, if he spawns in a location and there are set or whatever else, and there are several people there, he will choose the person with the lowest remaining health. So it's a clever way of making sure that the tank can't just necessarily take everything. You're going to have to actually disengage this guy. The sight of the thing raised the question, do we eat to live or do we live to eat? I always like to think that this ghoul is actually kind of horrified with us, and like he's not trying to scare us here. He's going, ah, and he's horrified by what he's seen. So he's a tougher version of the ghoul minion we just fought before. And with 3 health, that's going to require 2 bullets to take down, which is frustrating because obviously that's going to only leave me with 1 bullet left in there. So I'm glad I've got my 45 automatic and my knife. Right, okay then. So if I play my ally, that will be an action that isn't fight, evade, parley, or resign, and the ghoul will hit me. I don't want that to happen. I don't have a lot of brains left. So, Roland, load that hand cannon. So spending one of Roland's ammo points, so +3 fight, so I'm on 7 might against 3 on the ghoul, -1, so that's a success. So that deals 2 damage, but the ghoul has got 3 health, so I don't actually kill it. Now, I'm going to try and be fancy here. So rather than spend one of Roland's bullets, which I don't need the extra damage, I only need 1 damage, I'm just going to fight normally, and I'm going to play Overpower. Okay, which is a skill card we saw earlier, and that's going to add, it does say max 1 per skill test, so you can't just spam them in. It's going to add 2 might to my check. So I've shot him with my gun, he's staggering back, and Roland charges in to tackle him into a sharp pile of bones to impale him. So it's 6 on 3. Oh, God. Oh, man. 3 times we've seen that. That is very unfortunate. And I don't get to draw a card because the test wasn't successful. Right, I really don't want him to hit me, so I'm going to spend one of Roland's bullets to finish him off. -4, which is normally almost an automatic fail, but because there's clues on there, Roland's been adding 3, which gets him up to 7. -4 is 3, which is equal with the ghoul's might, so I do 2 more damage and kill it. Now, on a normal player's turn, that would be very unfortunate that they'd spent all those resources just to kill that enemy, but because he's Roland, he hoovers a clue off that location. Okay? So I've got the requisite number of clues, but I'm not in the hallway, and we did say, am I going to try and get the victory points off the cellar? I really think I should, because I've got my flashlight, I've got my doctor, who could really boost me. So enemies, thankfully they're all dead. Have a resource and draw a card. The Dynamite Blast. Now that's interesting because that's obviously very expensive. Choose either your location or a connecting location. Deal 3 damage to each enemy and each investigator at the location. But at 5, it really is, do I want to play the Doctor or do I want to play the Dynamite? Knowing what's coming later, I think I'm going to go for the good Doctor. Or do I go for the Dynamite? We'll have to see. It's a very tough decision. Right then, 1 Doom, and then a card. That ghoul wasn't alone. Out of the pile of bones come a series of grasping hands. Test fleet. For each point I fail by, take a damage. So again, I only have 1 card that boosts fleet, and it's my 45 special. I mean, that's my 45 automatic, and that's another thing. If I purchase the Doctor, I'm not going to be able to afford the gun without putting some time into my resources to replace my soon-to-be empty 38 special. -2. If there's a ghoul enemy, take a damage. So -2. So that means fleet of 0. against test of 3. Each point I fail by taking damage. I'm now up to 5 damage. I've only got 4 health left. Oh gosh. It's going terribly for Roland. So this is where it needs to be like, okay, is it worth me hanging around in this cellar, trying to do this check? You know, even if I use my flashlight, that takes the shroud down by 2, which means I'm still going to struggle I'm still going to struggle to pass the check. Or should I just, you know, should I just bang on? Do you know what? I'm going to take the. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to bother with Christopher. If I'd got Dr. Milan Christopher earlier, I obviously would have played him, but I know what's coming in the game, so I'm going to play that to my advantage because the game's been really mean to me with 3 tentacles. So I'm going to do an investigate check, spending a battery from my light bulb, spending a battery from my flashlight, and I'm going to discard Dr. Christopher to give me a bonus. So now the shroud goes down by 2, so that's shroud 2, and my investigate goes up by 1, so that's investigate 4 versus shroud 2. -2, Dr. Christopher's note that he'd left in my his business card reminds me of an important thing when looking for clues amongst dead creatures, and I pick up that last clue, which I didn't technically need to do the investigation, but I want the experience point. Great. Okay then. So I'm going to move to the hallway, and before I spend these clues, no, you know what? I'm going to spend the clues. I'm going to spend the clues right now. I'm going to spend the clues. I'm going to spend the goddamn clues right now. Right then, so I spent my 3. So we flip over the barrier. Breaking the barrier. Using the barrel from the attic, I carried ice and snow from the cellar, and I hurled it at the barrier. The barrier sparked and shuddered as it consumed the ice, then hissed and faded out of existence. The barrier blocking the passage to the parlour has vanished. Reveal the parlour. Put the set-aside Lita Chandler into play in the parlour. Spawn the set-aside Ghoul Priest in the hallway. And that's what I really like about the clues in this game. It's not like, I found a clue. Like, I went up to the attic to get the barrel, and I went down to the cellar to get the ice and the snow. And that's what opened it up. So, let's reveal our parlour. Lovely parlour. 2 shrouds, 0 clues. Action. Resign. This is too much for me. You run out of the front door, fleeing in panic. While Lita Chandler is not controlled by a player, she gains Parley. Test Investigate 4. If you succeed, take control of Lita Chandler. Speaking of Lita Chandler, let's meet that charming lady. So, Lita Chandler, the Zealot. She's an ally. While you control Lita Chandler, she gains. Each investigator at your location gets +1 might. Amazing. And then reoccurring action. When an investigator at your location successfully attacks a monster enemy, that enemy investigator deals +1 damage. And she's got 3 health and 3 horror. Gosh, she's brilliant. But she requires quite a bit of convincing to join you. Let's meet the not-so-nice guy. 4 fight. 5 health per investigator. 4 fleet. He's a humanoid monster, ghoul, and he's an elite. This is a really cool term that FFG put into this game, which protects the really big monsters from like the skills and abilities that really hamper weaker monsters. He preys on the highest might. Now, he's a hunter. We talked about that with the rats, that he will move and follow you. If there's no people at his location, and he has retaliate. Oh God, you will learn to hate retaliate in this game. If you fight an enemy with retaliate and you fail in your check, like when I drew the tentacles against the ghoul in the cellar, the ravenous ghoul in the cellar, it deals its damage to you. So in this case, that would be 2 physical and 2 horror, which would leave Roland on 1 brain. And then, presumably you failed and it's not dead when it hits you in the enemy phase, that would be 2 more damage and 2 more horror. A figure in red robes wearing a bone mask. It gibbers and snarls before leaping to attack. And that's in the hallway with me. Now, this is a good example here of supposedly Mr. Oh, he's engaged with me. Supposedly Mr. Oh, I've played the scenario before. I should not have done that because now I have one action left and the ghoul priest is right there with me, which is bad. Right, because I can't kill him. He's got 5 health. I can't kill him straight away. And he's going to do 2 damage and 2 horror to me. Now, that won't kill me this turn, but if I fail in my physical check against him, then he will do that damage right now, and he will kill me. And Roland's gun isn't super great anymore because he's not. There are no clues in the hallway. So this is a really, really poopy situation. Now, I could, if I were a fleeter character, I could try and evade him, which would exhaust him, and retaliate doesn't work with exhaust, with evade, and then he wouldn't deal his damage to me this turn, and I'd have next turn to sort of just blast him down. Now, the other problem is I only have 1 bullet in my gun, so even after I shoot him, I will do 2 damage, and then I will just be fighting him as is, because if I do anything other than fighting or evading or parleying or resigning with him, then he will get to hit me. And in addition to the hit that he's going to get at the end of this turn, those two combined will kill me. So what I should have done is played the guard dog, probably, definitely, or equipped the 45 automatic before I came in here. But I've been an idiot, and I'm going to suffer for it. And this is Cthulhu, so that's just the way things are. So I'm going to fire a bullet, because I'll be damned if I'm going to die with bullets in my gun. There's not much point in boosting this, because I'm already getting a boost on this from the gun, and I'll need my boosts for the attacks that are to come. So, 5 on 4, plus 0! Hooray! So that does 2 damage to him. Which would mean the dynamite would kill him, but it will also kill me. So that's good. Great. So now it's the end of the turn and the enemy phase. So he does 2 damage to me, and he does 2 horror to me. So I'm 1 horror away from dying, and I'm 2 physical damage away from dying. We'll get to draw a card. Oh, that's not the card we needed. I know exactly the card we need. Although, actually, that wouldn't help me at all. No, it would have helped me. It would have helped me. It would have helped me a lot. Yeah, that would have been great. Oh, well. A resource, a doom, and a mythos. Rotting remains. Oh, revelation. Oh, God. Test will 3 for each point I fail by. Take a horror. I can only take 1 horror before I die. So, so I've got guts 2, which will bump me up to 5. I do have the dynamite. However, my plan at the moment, but basically the only 2 things that I can do now are either hit it successfully 3 times. Because if I get it wrong a single time, he's killed me, and I need to hit him 3 times to kill him. That seems very difficult. Don't get me wrong, running away from him is also practically impossible, but it's practically impossible, and if I fail it, he doesn't kill me. So what I could do is have a go twice at trying to get away from him. Oh no, I'm never going to get away from him. I need the +1, and there's no way I'm drawing that. Though I do like the idea of detonating the dynamite and killing him with me. So, worst comes to worst, that's what I'm going to do. Okay. So, Here we go. Oh! Let's find out what that actually counts as, because I've automatically failed the check. Oh, it counts as if I had a skill value of 0. So 0 against 3, I take 3 horror, and Roland's tiny mind explodes at the sight of the rotting remains. Oh, man. So Roland died from insanity. Oh, that's really upsetting. So let's have brain exploded Roland in primary shot as I read the resolution for what happens if no resolution was reached. I barely managed to escape the house with my life. The woman from my parlour followed me out the front door, slamming it behind her. You fool! See what you have done? She pushes a chair in front of the door, lodging it beneath the doorknob. We must get out of here. Come with me, and I will tell you what I know. We are the only ones that can stop the threat that lurks beneath from being unleashed throughout the city. I'm in no state to argue. Nodding, I follow the woman as she runs from my front porch out into the rainy streets towards Rivertown. So my house is still standing. The Ghoul Priest is still alive. I've got Lita Chandler, and I got her in my deck. And I get victory points equal to X, which is the amount of victory points in the display, +2 through an insight into the world of the mythos. So I cleared out those 2 locations, so I get 4 victory points. But because Roland died in the scenario, because Roland is dead, he was driven insane, he has a mental trauma, which means next game he will start with 1 horror already on him. And the Ghoul Priest is alive, so he'll be coming back. But Lita Chandler, I get her into my deck, and she would be absolutely awesome. Oh, that's so upsetting. Maybe I shouldn't have hung around in the cellar for us. Now, what I shouldn't have done, I shouldn't have moved into the hallway and activated that and put the Ghoul Priest there. If I thought about it, what I should have done is equip. Over a couple of turns, I could have afforded the automatic and the guard dog. I should have had the automatic and the guard dog ready to go, gone in there and fought the Ghoul Priest not man to man dog versus ghoul man beast. But technically I get to go on to the next scenario, even though things have already gone badly. I've played the next scenario a few times now, and it's freaking impossible. I don't know how on earth you would do it as a single player, but I'm sure we'll get a chance to have a look. Hope you enjoyed this video and watching Roland be driven completely insane.